and welcome to another edition of Trends with LJE, the program where we explore the nation's most pressing stories with insight and clarity. I am Maimuna Ahoiza Zubair, and today we'll be unpacking some critical national issues with our esteemed panelists, development strategist and commentator Mr. Shedrack Oka, and Barrister Samuel Mime, President of the LJE. Gentlemen, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's dive right into our first story of the day. The Senate is opening a wide-ranging probe into several federal government agencies for alleged violations of the federal character principle, a constitutional mandate that ensures fair representation of Nigeria's diverse ethnic and regional groups in public service appointments. Among the agencies listed for scrutiny are NNPC Limited, Nigerian Ports Authority, NAFDAC, Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NDIC, PENCOM, among others. According to the 1999 Constitution, the federal character principle is meant to promote national unity and give every part of the country a sense of belonging. However, according to the Senate Committee on the Federal Character and Intergovernmental Affairs, many of these agencies have serially violated this principle. Shadrach, I'm going to come to you first. This is a developing situation. The news just dropped, I think, late yesterday. And I'm wondering what has brought this on. You heard some of the many agencies and parastatals that were mentioned, and there's so many others that have not been mentioned but will be revealed as time goes on. What does this mean? Is there a tide changing? You know that Nigerian government institutions never do anything without an underlying reason. Let me hear your thoughts on this.
May you captured it very well. Our politicians, not just Nigerian government functionaries, especially our politicians, don't do something out of impulse or because they want to do what is right. Sometimes it's motivated. One of them is marginalized, and suddenly you send lists and it wasn't honored,
right? And
then you use that up. Ordinarily, it is their duty. That is why they are there, to checkmate the executive and checkmate other parasites in terms of oversight functions. You can see this is a tradition that has been going on. Anytime somebody is being appointed to an agency, they become demigods. They do what they like. Right. I remember vividly at the Senate committee, one of the DGs of one big government parastatal, they were asking her on the recruitment process, a state will have 2, 1, 0, and the state where the woman came from got 60-something. Wow. And where they were trying to probe, and she was saying, I am trying to balance this up because my predecessor also favored the part of this outside of the country. So these things go on and on. For me, I think if you want to touch the eye, you go straight to the head. You don't just start looking at somebody's toe, knee, waist region, looking for the eye. Go straight to the head. What is the head? The presidency. So a leader's action is a leading, sin, or so to say, a leader's sin. When a leader goes wrong, the rest of the body, once the head is sick, the rest of the body is sick.
Absolutely.
You look at the presidency, what is the style in terms of appointment? Do they obey federal character? In terms of ministerial slots, representation, a state in this country has 4, while other states had 1. Look at the just concluded census.
We discussed
we discussed.
Yeah.
You see, a region has the south, down south has 6, while up north had 2.
Right.
But you don't do that. And in all of this, a particular region, a particular geopolitical zone will have 6, while an entire region have 0.
Right.
Have the Senate have that guts to call the president to order? Do they suddenly wake up and just remember there is a federal character, there's an oversight function to checkmate federal agencies? Let them start from the presidency and be bold enough to know that the president was elected just as they are elected. And these people are elected to serve us. So it's a wake-up call to the Senate. We will say to them, we are watching you. We won't clap because that is your normal duties to do. But we're also watching transparently to know that this is not just ill-motivated to winch hunt somebody or suddenly because it affects one, and then you wake up to that responsibility. But on the whole, it's a good thing. Federal character must be obeyed in all of our appointments because it is for national integration and unity.
Absolutely. Barrister, from a legal and constitutional standpoint, what mechanisms exist to enforce federal character principle? Why have they failed so far? And are there sanctions when such failures have occurred?
Well, there is basically no sanction. It is a matter of principle
Right.
that this federal character principle must be upheld at all time in the area of appointment, in the area of recruitment, and what have you. But then we know how this country is operating, and oftentimes when one is given position of authority or position to act, your community members and everybody will
They'll come first.
come
Absolutely.
and they'll come up to you and trying to lobby to get appointments, to get job positions and all of. These are issues really, but it is not so difficult to really deal with. It's good that the Senate is waking up, and there is more other agencies and government parastatals that also need to be looked into. But it must begin from the head. And when it comes to this federal character, whether it be state character or local government character, this is applicable to almost all sectors in Nigeria. When a governor is elected, most likely that he's going to bring in more of his people into governance. And of course, you see what happened at the level how the president also appointed the ministers. There are some states who also got more, whereas the
Than
other states
others.
just single. But it's a matter of principle. But what I'm more concerned about is, irrespective of federal character, is a principle that must be upheld at all time. It is also important that even when you're choosing your statement, choose statement with merit, so that at the end of the day, they should be able to prefer solutions to the
Absolutely. Do you think that legal reform or constitutional amendment is required? Because you said that it is not necessarily, mandated on anyone to institute federal character principle. But we live in a diverse, a very heterogeneous country where everybody needs to be represented. If there is nothing that is forcing anybody to institute those principles, then anybody can act with impunity. Do you think that a legal reform or constitutional amendment is required to enforce this?
I do not really think there is more reforms to be done, except we're considering maybe criminalizing those who are involved in nepotism. To say that if you decide to just bring in your people for an interest that concerns Nigeria, just like my colleague rightly said, in the area of the National Population Commission, as was recently constituted, how certain segments of the country were more
Represented, yeah.
and other people were not, other area was not represented. And these are the critical issues. So that's why I say that in principle, it is by way of principle, and it is recognized in the Constitution to say this federal character must be followed, but there is no consequences attached to
Right.
not adhering to it. So if we're looking at the maybe legal reforms, that means we need to start looking at criminalizing those who fail to adhere to this principle. I think is also a way to go.
Absolutely. Let's move on now to a highly debated issue. The arrest and bail of social media activist Very Darkman, real name Martins Vincent Otse, was still on this topic. The EFCC claims he is arrested over multiple petitions linked to financial crimes and that he failed to honor invitations. But many Nigerians, including politicians, human rights advocates, and online communities, see the arrest as intimidation. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar called the arrest a blatant abuse of power. Public protests erupted in Abuja, calling for his release. Similarly, the Minority Caucus of the House of Reps condemned the arrest. The EFCC, however, insists his arrest had nothing to do with his frequent critiques of powerful individuals or institutions. I'm going to come to you first, Barrister, about this ongoing issue. The last time we talked about it, the EFCC basically said that it was fake news, that BBC Pidgin was peddling information regarding his arrest. They didn't say why he was arrested, but that he was indeed picked up from GT Bank. And now they have admitted that he was taken, and they are saying they're giving reasons based on apparent or alleged financial crimes. And do you think that his administrative bill that was granted him was based on pressure from, all of the groups that came, including government functionaries and even protesters? What are your thoughts on this?
We know that Very Darkman has been a very strong critic of this current administration.
Right.
And looking at the trajectory of this government, because when we use the word government, some people will just refer to the president himself. Some persons are within the corridors of power who believe that when you criticize the government officials or government of the day, so what they could do is to, it's okay, we can use some aspect of the institutions of government to, just suppress
Right.
such individual. And we have seen that happen in this country. It's quite a very bad situation we find ourselves. But talking about the issues of administrative bail, if you want to grant administrative bail, it should be easy for the suspects
Right.
to skate through. A Very Dark Man is a very popular person, and I do not know, I don't have facts if really he was invited, but I know Very Dark Man is someone who he speaks up almost every day on the social media handles. If he was really invited, there should be evidence that he was invited and he failed to honor the invitation. But that notwithstanding, the agents of government such as EFCC have the power to invite any person. They also have the right to arrest.
Right.
But you must first extend invitation to such person if such offense or alleged offense committed has to do with financial crime, but not a crime essentially against the state. Or maybe if you feel the suspect would probably run or try to abscond from arrest. But in this situation, we know that from evidence we had from the streets and from the credible persons close to the source, that he was never invited. So it's a case of just pick him up. And it is very bad for our democracy indeed, because for some of us who are also critics of these administrative procedures on
Process.
government,
Yeah.
and when there are issues, we speak up. So what you are trying to do is that nobody have a right to criticize the government. But if there are allegations against Very Dark Man in the sense of financial related issues, they should make it public. Why would you have to go to court to seek for court order to further detain him in the custody? It therefore means that you've not conducted your investigation to find out if really there is a reason to invite him. Because anybody can write any petition. Anybody can present petition to the police. Anybody can present petition to EFCC as the case may be. It is a responsibility of the organization in question to investigate properly if the petition is weighty enough to look into. Because if some people can instigate a petition to see, just bring him and keep him there, then take him to court, just try to weaken him,
Right.
so that when he's out, he will be scared to speak. This is the case we find in this country. And the government under President Tinubu should discourage this with all, because he is a beneficiary of criticism of the previous government.
Absolutely.
And that actually led him to the position where he find himself. Nigerians believe that, this man has been speaking. If we give him opportunity, then he's going to
He will
deliver
right the wrongs,
and all
absolutely.
of those things. So at the end of the day, if we have more of this right abuse under your government, the government will not last forever. The worst that will happen is at 2027, he will be re-elected. He cannot go beyond 2031. And by the time he sit back as another statesman, he will reflect. And then let's see whether he's going to criticize the subsequent government if they continue to abuse the powers of the citizens. But we will not allow citizens' power to be abused in this country. We must continue to speak up. We must continue to speak up. We must continue to galvanize the Nigerian people and speak up and protect the interests of Nigeria, not the interests of the few in governance.
Absolutely. Moving on now to economy, the international price of crude oil has dropped to around $60 per barrel, well below the Nigerian government's 2025 benchmark of $75 per barrel. Nigeria currently produces 1.4 million barrels per day, which is also below the projected 2.06 million barrels used in the budget. With an estimated budget deficit of 30 trillion naira, the implications are vast, from debt burdens to social spending cuts and increased borrowing. The future looks bleak. I'm going to come to you, Shadrach. How worried should Nigerians be about this oil price crash? This is not just something that is affecting Nigeria. This is a worldwide, a global situation. So many reports from even American institutions that have gathered research are projecting even less prices as the years come. How worried should we be?
Well, he that is down fears no fall. Nigerians are already down, so whether oil prices crashes to 100 naira or $50, it means nothing to them, because if you sell at $1,000 or even $1 million per barrel, it will not make any difference to them. It all ends in the pockets of politicians. Little wonder when the Senate president welcomed his colleague to the open plenary session. He told them after the recess, he said, let us work to move Nigerians forward and not our pockets. So he spoke from his heart, and we appreciated the Senate president very well. I hope with this, they will have to adjust their belts from the presidency to the legislators and all those in authorities, and not to call on Nigerians to sit up and be patient and endure and tighten their belts. We are throwing it back to them. The Senate president advised all National Assembly members to work to move Nigeria forward and not their pockets. I hope he's speaking from his heart and he meant what he said. If not for Nigerians, we are just praying to God Almighty that he will give us a leader that is patriotic, that is humane, and have compassion, because those are the only qualities that will make good governance meaningful. It doesn't matter whether oil prices goes to $50 or $20. The most important thing is to channel it where it ought to serve the people, the interests of the people. So it's very unfortunate that the oil price is where it is, but like I said, it makes no difference to Nigerians, because where you sell it for $1,000, it has not served us right.
But it affects us on a granular level. You see what happens when there is a price hike just within here like this, and you see how the prices of things in the market and everywhere else becomes.
We will continue to grain all Nigerians. It is surprising. This is the first time I've ever seen since the return of democracy that somebody will be campaigning for next election in the first year in office. All you see the APC do, what EFCC is even doing today is campaign. They are trying to tell Mr. President, you have shown in your character that you can elongate tenures. So won't you please, I'm campaigning for you. I'm helping you to, pick up critics and all that. All of this is campaign, just to please Mr. President. And so that's why I said, Nigerians, we have already adjusted ourselves. We are looking forward to the next election. And let me even say this very clearly. It doesn't matter what EFCC want to do or any federal agency. What they are trying to do is to provoke Nigerians further. They should stop doing that, because once you push somebody to the wall, and even a fowl has the capacity to bite, and you'll be surprised that the fowl really will sting very badly.
Teeth. We go now on a quick break, and when we return, we will discuss the growing controversy in the education sector and the quest for national unity. Stay with us.
At LJE Nigeria, we are committed to ensuring justice, equality, and accountability. Reporting a violation helps us to protect rights and uphold transparency. In this short guide, we'll walk you through how to report a violation on our website. Simply start by visiting our website at www.ljenigeria.org. From the home page, locate the Report a Violation option in the main menu at the top. Once you're on the Report a Violation page, you'll be prompted to select the type of violation you are reporting. This helps us categorize your report for faster and more effective handling. Next, fill in your details. It is essential to provide accurate and clear information so that we can follow up effectively. Once you have completed the form, simply click Submit. You'll receive a confirmation message that your report has been successfully submitted. Your report will be reviewed by a dedicated team of experts, and will treat all reports with the utmost confidentiality and work diligently to ensure a thorough investigation. If you have any question or need assistance during the reporting process, please don't hesitate to reach out to us through our contact page. Together, we can make a difference. Visit www.ljenigeria.org to report any violation and join us in upholding justice and accountability.
Welcome back. The program is still Trends with LJE. Let's talk about the education sector. An emergency meeting between the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, NELFUND, and Vice Chancellors of federal universities was postponed amidst growing controversy over the mismanagement of the new student loan scheme. Reports allege that out of the 100 billion naira released, only 28.8 billion naira reached students. The ICPC has now stepped in to probe possible corruption in fund disbursement. It just feels like back-to-back stories
Facts.
with, we had probe here, another probe there. Barrister, let me hear your thoughts on this. I don't even know how to craft the question to ask you. Let me hear your thoughts.
You see, this country is a very funny country. And, during the campaign, the president promised student loan. Now he has made student loan available. We are hearing of that still entirely. So who is to be blamed? And, when we talk about corruption in this country, it boils down to particularly civil servants. The civil servant makes corruption easy for politicians.
Right.
So that is the issue. What else can we say? We should encourage the EFCC, the ICPC, and all the agencies of government to look into the issue. And by the time you start tracing, you still find out that heads of governments and various agencies are involved. But let's see what happens. I don't really have something to say right now, but Nigeria is just, everybody is looking for a way to grab something.
Right.
Everyone is looking for, the problem is not just about the politicians, the individuals, the character, the behavior. And if you go to some government agencies, I was telling someone the other day, maybe you want to generate, I went to 10 office the other day, FIRS office. I wanted to generate 10 for a company. The lady collected the paper from someone who is to tip. And the other one comes and they said there's no network, there's no lights, you have to queue that one down there. These are the issues that we'll see on a daily basis in this country, not just the political office orders. There is a need for social orientation. So the reason why we will talk about more on these government agencies, because they have the collective responsibility to provide services for the people.
Absolutely.
But those other ones in the civil service and all of those things will make things very difficult. When money comes for the development, they try to cut it down until before you get to the final stage, you have nothing to work with. It's quite pathetic.
Absolutely. Shadrach, very quickly, this Student Loan Act was enacted in 2023, so just a mere 2 years ago, with this core to give access to higher education. And barely 2 years later, with 100 billion naira disbursed, less than a quarter of it is about a quarter of it is what has been given out, and the rest unaccounted for. This is not, news in how Nigeria, misappropriates fund. But I would like to hear your thoughts on what this means, what kind of message this sends to Nigerian students, especially those from lower income backgrounds, that we're really having the hope and dependence on this, and now this issue has come up, and apparently the probe into it is even being suspended or postponed at will. Where is accountability?
Let me take it this way. However anybody wants to read meaning into what I want to say, I owe nobody apology because
Absolutely.
I'm entitled to my opinion.
Absolutely.
This is the way I want to address this issue. When it comes to education and government policies and programs, I always want, it is not enough to have an idea of what you want to do for the people. Is it what the people also need at that material time?
Right.
When you look at issue of priority, it's very important. There is a governor, recently from the presidency, President P2B was criticized that how many schools did he build and all that. And they reflected, the social media immediately brought out his campaign promises, where he was promising that he was not going to build new schools, that he was going to strengthen the schools that were available. Anambra was 26. He started building infrastructure, empowering the people, and he took them to first. There was, yes, why the student loan issue was a good policy. But at that material, is that what Nigerians want?
Right.
You cannot be given access to loan when our school infrastructure is comatose. There are no laboratories in our secondary schools. There are no computer. Everything is nothing to write home about. So I would say, for me, at that material time, that was not what Nigeria needed in terms of the education sector.
An Americanization of Nigerian
people just
policies.
do copy and paste.
Absolutely.
That is what we do in Nigeria. What is the philosophy of education in Nigeria? We don't have a direction. We don't have. What is the philosophy of education? What's our educational philosophy in Nigeria? We don't have. So people just do these things to get, political claps and all that. We don't need all of that. That's the reason why when it comes, they don't know what to do with it. People start to pilfer and to steal. It's very unfortunate that this is happening. And then the EFC's ICPC, like they said, they're going to look into issues and probe. They should do that. That is what they need to do. When Nigerians are watching, all it boils back to recruiting competent and people that are very, very capable
Right.
to serve.
Absolutely. And finally, the National Orientation Agency, NOA, has renewed calls for patriotism and unity. During a flag presentation ceremony in Ibadan, Dr. Olukemi Afolayan, outgoing state director of the NOA, emphasized the need for citizens to embrace national symbols, promote dialogue, and recommit to collective development. This comes at a time when national sentiment seems low and frustration with leadership very high. President, I'm going to hear it from you first on this thought. And when you look at all of the things that we've talked about this episode and how none of it boosts morale per se, asking us to have patriotism and unity of purpose in our hearts and in our sentiments, is it not an emphasis and what do they call that? An endeavor in futility. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this.
Well, the National Orientation Agency, this is an agency of government. From here in LJE, we have written to them 3 times just to collaborate with them and assist them. Not to get anything from them, just to support what they do.
Right.
We have written to the is it the executive director or was it the DG? The director general, we have written to him 3 times. No response. We have been to their office. What is their program? Okay, just create your contents. How do you want to tell Nigerians? Is it by just mere public statements? What are the programs you have in place? Because this is a time that this National Orientation Agency ought to work for Nigeria.
Absolutely.
By way of social orientation, encouraging the citizens and all of those things they can do, to lift the hope of the citizens. But they are not doing that. Most time when they are giving this appointment as the Director General or whatever, they just acquire vehicles, acquire the items, they sit back in the office, they write plenty stories on what they intend to do. At the end of the day, they tend to run off without really achieving anything.
Yeah.
Well, the National Orientation Agency ordinarily have so much to do for Nigerians in terms of interface between the government policies and the citizens as well, by encouraging them doing the right thing and also talking to the people through different means.
Mediums, yeah.
That we're not saying here. We want to encourage them to do the right thing.
Absolutely. Shadrach, speaking on the National Orientation Agency itself, encouraging people and sensitizing, but very, very little. A lot of people don't even know they exist. I would like to hear your thoughts on this, specifically on whether patriotism can be legislated or enforced. You can only talk, and it is, like you said off camera, earned. I would like to hear your thoughts. What role does civic education, law, all of this, how do they play into, changing people's mindsets and getting the patriotism that we desperately need?
Well, we have a lot of instruments to effecting corrections in some of these societal weaknesses that we have experienced in Nigeria. The National Orientation, if you look at their structure very well, all the 774 local government, they have staffing, they have structure, to give out this positive image about Nigeria,
Right.
but we are not seeing it. The last I can remember about National Orientation was when the Minister of Blessed Memory, Dora Akunyili, Nigeria, good people, great nation. That statement alone, all over international communities, put Nigeria in the spotlight where they begin to look at the positives in Nigeria. At that point, Nigeria was very high in crime, especially the internet fraud. But that statement began to elevate the good things that Nigerians were doing home and abroad, and it turned around the situation. But when some other person come in, you want to now outdo that instead of you to build upon it.
Absolutely.
So this time they are calling for patriotism. Patriotism can only be earned. You can't buy it. You can't coerce people to be patriotic to a nation that have not shown patriotism. There are no drugs in the hospital. There are no books in our schools. There are no roofs on our head. Tariff, double taxation. Where's the patriotism going to come from? When the government has shown themselves anti-people, very hostile, you write to this same agency that you want to collaborate to help them. If you go there and see how they will treat you,
Right.
they're expecting money from you. And you are calling for people to, I don't understand. They need orientation. I think the national orientation need orientation. Reorientation, people need to be schooled. People need to be trained.
Yeah.
And they are under Ministry of Information. We have, I love this man, the current Minister of Information, a gentleman, and I think he's doing a very good job. So let him look behind, look within, and restructure the national orientation. The leadership whatever they are not doing right, they need orientation before they can sell out this message. But of course, it's an instrument that can help the nation, balance a lot of things, including these our diversities, the hostility that is going on. Just a simple message where we see them show leadership, show patriotism themselves by doing the right thing the right way. It will go a long way to affect the generality of our behaviors in the country.
Very true. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your sharp insights and your analysis. And thank you to our audience. Let us remember that democracy thrives not just in the ballot box, but in our daily engagements with issues that matter. The future of Nigeria depends on an informed and active citizenry. I am Maimuna Ahoiza-Zubairu. Thank you for joining us on today's edition of Trends with LJE. See you next time.